stood on the observation platform of the research station, watching the black sky above 7. The station had been quiet for 3 months, too quiet. His team of 15 people worked in shifts, collecting data about the planet's atmosphere and geology. Nothing dangerous had happened yet. The planet seemed empty of intelligent life. Then the alarm went off. "Captain, we have a contact," said the communications officer. Her voice was calm but urgent. "Something is falling from the sky. Big object, moving fast." Move to the main control room. The monitors showed a small ship falling toward their position. It was not a human ship. The design was strange, with curved edges and lights that pulsed like a heartbeat. "All personnel to the bunker," ordered, "now." The team moved quickly. They had drills for this. Everyone knew what to do if something unexpected came from the stars. They had been warned that 7 was near the territory of a species known to be violent and territorial. Contact protocols were clear: hide and observe. But did not go to the bunker. He stayed in the control room and watched the ship fall. It burned bright as it entered the atmosphere. The computers tracked its path. It would crash 3 kilometers from the station. Made a decision. He took a small scanner, a medical kit, and a translation device. He left a message for Commander, his second officer. "If I do not return in 4 hours, follow Emergency Protocol 7 and evacuate everyone to orbit." Then he walked out into the red dust of 7. The crash site was terrible. The ship had hit hard. Pieces of metal lay scattered across the ground like broken bones. Smoke still rose from the wreckage. Moved slowly, scanning for any life signs. The translation device buzzed with activity. There was power still running somewhere in the ship. He found the body first, large with blue skin and sharp features, dead, a no question. Kept searching. The translation device suddenly made a different sound. Living thing, close, very close. He found her in a sealed chamber half buried under a control panel. She was small, much smaller than the dead, a child. Her skin was lighter blue and her breathing was shallow. She was wounded. Blood leaked from a cut on her shoulder. Had 2 choices. He could walk away. He could go back to the station and let command decide what to do. The protocols were clear. Do not engage. Do not help alien life forms. Too dangerous. Too many unknowns. He picked her up carefully and carried her back to the station. Was waiting at the door, his face dark with anger. "What have you done?" "She will die if we do nothing," said simply. The medical officer, a woman named Helen, was young but good at her job. She worked on the child for 3 hours. The language barrier was enormous. The translation device could not convert biology into words they understood. But Helen used what she knew. She stopped the bleeding. She set the broken bone in the child's arm. She gave fluids and pain medicine. By morning, the child was alive, still unconscious but breathing steadily. She was small enough that Helen could carry her. She was no threat to anyone. "The command structure will have our heads for this," said quietly. "Then they will have them," replied. "What else were we supposed to do?" The child woke on the 3rd day. Her eyes were large and dark. She looked at and made a sound that the translation device could not translate. Fear, confusion, pain. Did not move. He sat on the floor beside the medical bed and waited. Slowly, the child's breathing became steady again. She did not attack. She did not call for help. She watched him. Came in with food, something soft and easy to eat. The child ate. Slowly, her body relaxed. Days passed. The child's wounds healed. Her name, the translation device finally learned, was Lyra. She spoke in short bursts. Her ship had crashed. The guard had died trying to protect her. She was alone. Lyra was a princess. The translation device eventually explained this clearly. Her mother was the queen of the... She had been traveling on a diplomatic mission when the navigation system failed. On the 7th day, Lyra stood up and walked to the window. She looked out at the red landscape of 7. She turned to and spoke in her strange language. The translation device worked hard to keep up. "You saved my life," it said in English. "You did not know who I was. You did not know if I was dangerous, but you saved me anyway." Nodded. "My people will come for me," Lyra continued. "My mother will know I am here. When they find you, they will not forget what you did." "I do not need them to remember," said. "I only helped because you needed help." Lyra moved closer. She was still small, still healing, but her eyes were clear now. "You are different from other species I have learned about. You are kind without expecting anything back. This is strange. This is not logical." "No," agreed. "It is not logical, it is human." That night finally sent the message to Earth Command. The situation had to be reported. A child, rescued, protected, everything against protocol. The response took days to arrive, but when it did, it changed everything. "Captain, this is Admiral Torres on the Mars station. Your actions have created a critical situation. The Queen has sent a message. She demands to know who saved her daughter. Prepare the child for departure. A ship is coming. And whatever happens next, Earth Command recognizes that you made a human choice." Stood in the room with Lyra. The child who had come from the sky had taught him something important. Rules were important. Protocols kept people safe. But sometimes, doing the right thing meant breaking the rules. Lyra looked up at him with her dark eyes. "Will you be here when my mother comes?" "Yes," said, "I will be here." The ship appeared in orbit 3 days later. It was enormous, with weapons visible along its hull. This was not a rescue mission. This was a show of power. But when the message came through, it was not what anyone expected. The Queen wanted to meet the human who had saved her daughter, and she was not asking politely. She was demanding his presence on her. Looked out at the stars and understood that his life had changed forever. The ship descended through the atmosphere with a power that made the entire station shake. Watched from the main observation deck. His crew was nervous. Some had weapons, though they knew weapons would be useless against something so advanced. The ship did not land. It stopped 500 meters above the ground and opened a bay door. A smaller craft descended, carrying Lyra. She had walked to the docking airlock herself, though Helen had tried to stop her. The girl was determined. "My mother sent an honor guard," Lyra had told him. "I must go with them, but my mother sent a message for you too." The message came through the communications system. A woman's voice, strong and commanding. The translation device worked to convert the words. "I am Queen of the Empire. You have saved my daughter's life. In our culture, this creates a debt that cannot be ignored. You have acted with courage. You have acted with wisdom. You did not know my daughter was a princess. You did not care about power or reward. You simply did what was right." Stood still, listening carefully. "Among my people, honor is everything," the Queen continued. "A human saved my child. This is a thing that will change how we see your species. I ask you now to come to my. I wish to understand this human nature that moves you to risk everything for a stranger. Come willingly, and you will be protected and honored. Refuse, and I will still respect your choice, but know that you will always have a place at my throne." The message ended. Lyra was gone, lifted into the sky by the smaller craft. The ship rose with her, moving back into orbit. In minutes, both ships had jumped to faster-than-light speed and vanished. The station fell silent. Approached in the control room. The commander had aged in the past week. His face was tight with worry. "They are not going to let this go," he said. "We need to report to Earth Command and let them decide what you should do." "I have already decided," said. "You cannot be serious." "They saved my crew," replied. "They did not attack. They did not demand anything unreasonable, and the Queen is right. This is about honor and about showing that humans are not what they think we are." The message to Earth Command was long and detailed, explained everything. The crash, the rescue, the princess, the Queen's offer. He requested permission to travel to the. The response took 6 hours. Captain Admiral Torres here. Earth Command is divided on this matter. Some believe you should go, others believe this is a trap. However, we recognize that you have already broken protocol to save a life. We also recognize that if they had wanted to destroy us, they would have done so. You have Earth Command's permission to proceed. But this is voluntary. You do not have to go. We can extract you if you wish. Thought of Lyra's dark eyes. He thought of the Queen's words. He thought of his crew, safe and alive because he had made a human choice. He typed his response, "I am going." The preparation took 2 days. Helen gave him medical supplies for his injuries that might come, taught him more words from the translation database. The cook prepared food that he could carry, knowing it might be the last human food he would eat for a long time. Walked with him to the small shuttle that would carry him to the ship waiting in orbit. The commander was quiet for most of the walk. "You know they might keep you there," finally said. "You might not come back." "I know," replied. "And you are going anyway." "Yes, because it is the right thing to do." Stopped walking. He turned to face and extended his hand. "Then I will make sure Earth knows what you did here. I will make sure they remember that you were not afraid." Shook his commander's hand. "Take care of the team, and if they send another ship, tell them that peace with thee is possible. Tell them that one human taught an alien queen that mercy is strength." The shuttle launched smoothly, watched through the window as 7 fell away below him. The red planet became smaller and smaller until it was just a dot. Then it was gone. The ship was massive up close. The hull was dark and covered with patterns of light. The weapons systems were visible, but the ship made no aggressive moves. The shuttle docked smoothly. The airlock opened. Stepped out into the ship. The gravity was heavier than Earth's, but he had trained for this. The air was breathable, though it smelled strange and metallic. A group waited for him. They were tall, easily 3 meters high, with blue skin and sharp features. They wore uniforms that marked them as guards. But it was not the guards who caught attention. It was Lyra. She stood in the center of the group, no longer in pain, no longer in fear. She stood with her head up and her shoulders back. She was a princess, and she carried herself like one. "Welcome," she said through the translation device. "Welcome to the Empire. My mother wishes to meet you immediately. She is very eager to know who saved her daughter." The guards led through corridors of metal and light. The ship was beautiful in a harsh, practical way. Everything had a purpose. Nothing was wasted. They moved deeper into the vessel, down through levels of technology and power. Finally, they reached a chamber that was larger than anything had ever seen. The walls curved up into darkness, and there, on a platform high above, sat the Queen. Was even larger than the other. Her skin was darker blue, almost purple. Her eyes were intelligent and calculating. She wore armor that was clearly ceremonial, covered with jewels and symbols of power. But her face was calm when she looked at. "So," she said, her voice reaching him clearly even across the vast distance, "this is the human who taught my daughter that courage is more important than strength." "I only did what anyone should do," replied. The Queen rose from her throne and descended the platform. She walked toward until she stood directly in front of him. Up close, she was even more impressive. She was a warrior and a ruler, and every bit of that power radiated from her. "No," the Queen said. "You did what few would do. You risked your own species' safety to save a stranger. You broke your own rules to do what was right. This tells me that your species is capable of something we have lost." She paused, studying him with those intelligent eyes. "I need you to help me find it again," she said finally. "Will you stay with me and teach my people what it means to truly be human?" Did not need time to think. He had already made his decision the moment he picked up an injured child from a crashed ship. "I will," he said. The Queen nodded as if she had known this would be his answer all along. She was already planning what would come next, already thinking about how one human could change an empire. and stood in the throne room of the Queen, ready to begin something that would transform the galaxy. The ship traveled faster than thought possible. The stars stretched and bent as they moved through space at speeds that would have destroyed a human vessel. But the technology held. The ship was perfect in its design, built to survive the violence of space travel. Was given chambers near the Queen's own quarters. The rooms were large and cold, everything made of metal and light. The bed was too hard, the temperature was too low, and the air still smelled wrong. But these were small prices to pay for what he was learning. The Queen visited him on the third day of travel. She brought Lyra with her, and the girl ran to and hugged him. It was an odd gesture for but Lyra had learned human ways from him. "My mother says you will have a room in the palace," Lyra told him with excitement. "A real room with a view of the city, and you will have the honor of standing at her side during important meetings." The Queen watched this exchange with careful attention. "Your actions with my daughter show what I suspected," she said. "You have the ability to bridge our species. You think differently than we do. You feel differently. This is what we need." "I am not sure I understand," said honestly. "Walk with me," the Queen commanded. "Let me show you then you will understand." They traveled through the ship to the main observation deck. Below them, a planet appeared. It was large and dark, covered in cities that glowed with harsh light. But there was no green, no water visible, just metal and stone and the lights of civilization stretching across every surface. "This is Prime," the Queen said, "the center of our empire, home to 50 billion people. Once this world had beauty. Once there was life beyond just our own, but we expanded, we consumed. We took what we needed because we were strong enough to take it, and now there is nothing left but us." She paused, looking down at her world. "I have ruled for 30 years. In that time we have conquered 17 star systems. We have made ourselves powerful beyond measure, but we are alone. Every species we encounter fears us. Every planet we visit learns to hate us. We are strong, but we are not respected. We are powerful, but we are not trusted." Understood now. The Queen was not asking him to teach her how to be stronger. She was asking him to teach her how to be better. The ship descended through the atmosphere. The landing was smooth. A platform rose to meet them, and they stepped out into the streets of the capital city of Prime. The palace was enormous. Towers of metal reached into the sky. Guards stood at every entrance, armed with weapons that could not comprehend. Everything was designed to show power and dominance. But inside, things were different. Lyra took through the palace herself. She showed him gardens that grew strange plants in controlled environments. She showed him libraries with knowledge stored in ways humans would never understand. She showed him training grounds where young learned to be warriors. Everything was about efficiency and power. Then she took him to a place where children gathered. Young, no more than 10 years old. Some were injured. Some were sick. A group of medical officers worked to help them, but the work was slow and difficult. Resources were limited. "These are the children of the lower cities," Lyra explained. "They do not have much. My mother has given her order that they be helped, but many of our people do not believe this is important. They believe only the strong matter." Watch the medical officers work. They were skilled, but they did not seem to care much about their patients. It was just a job. "I can help here," said. The Queen appeared in the doorway behind them. "Show us," she said. For the next 3 days did not sleep much. He worked with the medical officers, teaching them how to approach healing differently. He showed them how to touch patients gently. He showed them how to speak in ways that gave comfort. He showed them that healing was not just about fixing what was broken. It was about caring for the person inside. The doctors were confused at first. This was not logical, this was not efficient, but they saw results. The children healed faster, the infections disappeared, the wounded became strong again. Word spread through the palace. The human was doing something strange. The human was changing the way people thought about medicine. General did not like this. He was the commander of the military, a warrior with blue-black skin and scars that covered his body. He had built the empire through conquest. He had made the feared across the galaxy, and he saw as a threat. Came to the queen while was resting, listened from his chambers as the general's voice rose in anger. "You have brought weakness into the palace," said loudly. "This human teaches our people to care about those who cannot fight. This human teaches mercy when we should teach strength. He will destroy everything we have built." The queen's voice was cold. "I have made my decision. The human stays." "You are making a mistake," replied. "One day you will understand that I was right." He left, but the danger was clear, had made a powerful enemy. The queen summoned to her throne room. "You have noticed that opposes your presence here." "Yes," said. "He fears change. He fears that if our people learn to value things beyond warfare and conquest, we will lose our power. But I know the truth. Strength without wisdom is just violence. We will become stronger by learning what you have to teach." She stood and descended from her throne. "I have a task for you. There is a situation that requires your particular skills. A colony on the outer rim is facing problems. The governor there is making decisions that are creating suffering for the population. I could order him to obey me. That is the way. But instead, I am sending you. I want you to find a solution that does not involve force. Show my people that there is another way to solve problems." "And if I fail?" asked. "Then you will have learned something important about my species," the queen replied. "And I will have learned something important about the limits of what we can change." A ship was prepared for its journey, not a military vessel, a small, fast ship that could reach the colony quickly. Lyra wanted to go with him, but the queen refused. "You must stay here and help prepare our people for the changes that will come." Traveled alone through the stars, heading toward a colony he had never heard of, to solve a problem he did not yet understand. But he went willingly, because the queen had asked, and because he believed that change was possible. He did not know that waiting for him on that distant colony was a crisis that would test everything he believed about the power of human compassion. The colony was called Outpost 7. It sat on a moon that orbited a gas giant, a harsh place where thousands of worked to extract resources from the ground. The settlement was built inside a dome, protected from the deadly atmosphere outside. When arrived, he was shocked by what he found. The workers were being treated like machines. They worked 18-hour shifts with minimal rest. The food was inadequate. The medical facilities were non-existent. Worst of all, the governor, a named Vex, controlled everything with brutal punishment for any violation of his rules. Requested an audience with the governor immediately. Vex was waiting for him, sitting in a command chair that looked more like a throne. His skin was from countless battles. His eyes were cold. "So the queen sends a human to inspect my work," Vex said with contempt. "She grows soft. I will not take orders from a creature so weak that it must hide in armor and technology to survive." "The queen does not send me to give you orders," replied calmly. "She sends me to observe and to understand." "Then understand this," Vex said. "This outpost produces more resources than any other colony. The workers are efficient. They are fed enough to survive. They are sheltered from the deadly environment. This is more than they deserve." Did not argue. Instead, he asked to visit the work sites and the living quarters. Vex, confident in his position, allowed it. What saw was suffering. The workers were like any other, but they had been broken down through constant pressure and fear. They moved slowly, their bodies thin and exhausted. Some were injured and still working. Some had lost fingers or limbs from industrial accidents, but continued at their posts because they feared punishment more than pain. That night met with the workers in secret. They gathered in a dark corner of the living quarters, afraid to speak even in whispers. "Why do you stay?" asked. "Why do you not fight back? There are many more of you than there are guards." An older worker stepped forward. His name was Cray. "Because the governor has power that we do not understand, because he has made examples of those who resist, because we have forgotten that we have a choice." Understood. The situation was not about resources or production. It was about a leader who used fear to control his people. This was a problem that could not be solved with violence. If fought the governor, he would become as brutal as Vex. If he used force, he would prove that might was right. Instead, did something unexpected. He asked Vex to increase the workers' rations. Vex laughed. "No." "Then you must allow them to work fewer hours," said. "No." "Then you must provide medical care for the injured." "No, no, and no," Vex replied. "The Queen sent you here to learn that some problems cannot be solved through kindness. The workers must produce. They will produce regardless of their comfort. This is the way of the—" Continued to make simple requests. Each one was refused, but something was happening in the colony. The workers were watching. They were listening. Word spread about the human who was asking for them to be treated better. Then General arrived. He did not come alone. He came with military guards and a clear message from some members of the government. Was a failure and should be returned to the palace in shame. Had used his influence to have removed from the colony. "You cannot solve this problem," said to directly. "Because there is no problem to solve. The workers produce. The resources flow. The system works. Your need to change things comes from weakness, not wisdom." Was prepared to return to the palace. He had failed. He had not found a way to improve conditions. But as he walked to the transport ship, something remarkable happened. The workers stopped working. It was not organized. It was not planned. It was simply that every worker in Outpost 7 understood in that moment that had tried to help them, and they chose to show him support the only way they could. They put down their tools. They stood still. They refused to work. The alarm system screamed, ordered them back to their stations immediately, but the workers did not move. Vex appeared, rage filling his face. He ordered the guards to force them to work. But the guards hesitated. These were their own people, and they saw something in those workers that they recognized. They saw the possibility of change. Moved forward, ready to use violence to enforce obedience, but stepped between him and the workers. "This is what you did not understand," said Tu. "Power is not just about strength. It is about respect. These people choose to stop working, not because they are strong, but because they believe someone might finally listen to them." "This is rebellion," said coldly, "and rebellion must be crushed." "No," said a new voice. The Queen had arrived. She stood in the command center, having traveled from the palace herself. "This is not rebellion," she continued. "This is evolution. This is what happens when a people realize they have been treated unjustly, has not solved the problem through force. He has solved it through truth. The workers have shown that they have value beyond just what they produce." She turned to Vex. "You are removed from command. You will face trial for your treatment of workers under your authority." She turned to, "And you will return to the capital. I no longer require your services as a military advisor. Your time is past." His face went dark with rage, but the Queen's order was absolute. He had no choice but to obey. The workers returned to work that day, but everything had changed. The new governor was chosen from among the workers themselves, a named who understood what his people needed. Within a few weeks, conditions improved dramatically. Working hours were reduced. Food rations increased. Medical facilities were built. But more importantly, the workers were treated as people, not as machines. The Queen spoke with privately before they returned to the palace. "You have taught me something important," she said. "Said I was becoming weak, but I see now that I am becoming wise. You have shown me that a leader's true power comes not from weapons or warriors, but from understanding what drives her people." "I did not change the situation through wisdom," said honestly. I changed it because I refused to accept that things could not be better. The Queen nodded. That is the human gift. You believe in the possibility of change. We have lived so long with the reality of what is that we have forgotten to imagine what could be. This is why you must stay. This is why I need you at my side. As their ship rose from Outpost 7, watched through the window, below the workers gathered. They did not cheer. But they stood together, watching the human who had believed in them depart, and understood that his greatest achievement was not solving a problem. It was showing people that they had the power to solve it themselves. 2 years had passed since arrived on Prime. The transformation was not complete. Change never was, but it was real. The Queen had made decisions based on what had taught her. Workers were treated better. Medical care was expanded. Education systems were reformed to teach more than just warfare and conquest. But more importantly, other species had begun to notice. They were no longer seen as pure conquerors. They were seen as a people capable of growth. Diplomatic offers came from races that had previously wanted only to avoid space. The Galactic Council took notice. For the first time in recorded history, they invited the to send a representative to peace talks. The Queen called to her throne room. Lyra was with her, no longer a child but a young woman training to understand leadership. Both of them watched as he entered. The Galactic Council has asked me to send someone to represent the Queen said. Someone who understands both our culture and the cultures of other species. Someone who could help build peace instead of dominance. Knew what she was about to ask. I want you to be my representative, she said. I want you to go to the council and show them what is possible when we choose to understand each other. It was an enormous request. It meant leaving Prime. It meant traveling between the stars for months or years. It meant standing up in front of species from across the galaxy and speaking for the. But there is more, the Queen continued. I must ask you something difficult. After you are done at the council, I must ask you to choose. Will you return to the Empire to stay by my side, or will you return to your people on Earth? The room was silent. Had asked himself this question many times. Earth was his home. He had family there. He had a life that he had left behind. But Prime had become important to him. The Queen had become important. The work they were doing together had meaning that extended beyond either of their species. I will represent you at the council, said slowly. I will do everything I can to build peace, but I cannot make the choice you are asking me to make yet. I must first see what we can accomplish. I must first know if this is truly possible. The Queen nodded as if she had expected this answer. Then go, and when you return, we will know what choice you must make. The journey to the Galactic Council took 3 months, traveled on a diplomatic vessel, but he was not alone. The Queen had sent others with him. The governor of Outpost 7, a medical officer named Senna who had been trained in human methods of compassion, a warrior named Vax who had seen firsthand that peaceful solutions were stronger than military force. They were representatives of the new way. The council chamber was vast and filled with delegates from 100 different species. Humans were there, including representatives from Earth Command. When they saw, they looked shocked. They had thought him dead or lost. Instead, they found him alive and changed, a human who had lived among the stars and learned things they could never imagine. Spoke first. He explained how a human had saved a child. He explained how one act of compassion had led to the transformation of an empire. He explained that all species shared something in common, the capacity to choose to be better. Then spoke. He told the story of Outpost 7, how workers had been treated as less than people, how one human had refused to accept that things had to stay that way, how a peaceful protest had changed an entire system. Senna spoke about the medical advances they had made by learning to care for patients as people, not just biological problems to be fixed. Vax spoke about the power of warriors who learned to solve problems without violence. The council listened. Debates occurred. Some delegates remained skeptical. Some argued that they would always return to their brutal ways, but others, especially those who had long feared conquest, began to believe that real change was possible. By the end of the council sessions, agreements were made. Trade treaties, cultural exchanges, joint scientific projects, and most importantly, a recognition that the Empire under Queen was committed to building a peaceful and interconnected galactic community. And his delegation returned to Prime. Lyra was waiting for him, along with the Queen and thousands of others who lined the streets to see them arrive. The words had spoken at the council were already spreading through their world. Everyone knew that their queen had chosen peace over conquest. That night, met with the queen alone in her private chambers. "You have done what I asked," she said. "You have shown the galaxy that we are capable of change. The council has accepted us. Other species now wish to trade with us, to share knowledge with us, to build something together with us instead of against us." She stood and moved closer too. "Now I ask again, will you stay?" Had thought about this moment during his entire journey. He had thought about Earth. He had thought about his family. He had thought about the life he had left behind. But he had also thought about what they had accomplished together. He had thought about the millions of whose lives had been changed because one human had refused to accept injustice. He had thought about the children in those medical facilities, growing up knowing they were valued. He had thought about a girl named Lyra, who had learned from him that compassion was a kind of strength. "I will stay," said, "not just for you, but because the work is not finished, because there is so much more we can learn from each other, because this empire and this world need someone who remembers what it was like to see things differently." The queen reached out and placed her hand on his shoulder. It was a gesture she had learned from him, a gesture of respect between equals. "Then let us continue this work together," she said, "and let the galaxy know that one human showed an entire empire that there was a better way to be." The years that followed were the most difficult and rewarding of his life. He worked with the Queen to implement changes across the empire. Not all accepted the new ways. Some resisted. Some fought against the transformation. But slowly, very slowly, an empire built on conquest began to transform into something new, something built on understanding and cooperation. Lyra became a leader in her own right, combining strength with human compassion. She carried the lessons had taught her into every decision she made. Humanity and the Empire formed an alliance that other species wanted to join. Together, they showed that peace was not weakness, that compassion was not a liability, that an entire civilization could change if it chose to. Stood on the observation platform of the Queen's palace, looking out at the city of Prime. The lights were brighter now. The streets had changed. Gardens grew where there had been only metal before. He thought of the moment he had picked up an injured child from a crashed ship. He had not known that single act would change everything. He had not known that one human's choice to do what was right could transform an empire. But now he knew. And in the spaces between the stars, the story spread. It spread until every species in the galaxy knew the tale of the human who saved an alien child, and then saved an entire civilization by teaching it the power of compassion. The universe had needed this lesson, and had been the teacher. As he watched the stars above Prime, he understood that he was home, not on Earth but here, in the heart of an empire that was learning to value something greater than conquest. He had saved the child, and in doing so, he had saved something far more important. He had saved the possibility of a better future for all of them.